Ay. Otra vez. Come here. Let me say something. I remember Tampa, the way she used to be, the places we would run to, the faces we would see. Yes, I remember Tampa, those precious memories, a city rising on the move, a simple yet progressive groove. I remember Tampa, and she remembers me. Yeah. She remembers me.
Welcome to the Tampa Native Show. Stay tuned now for the fastest 60 minutes in cable broadcast history. Live from the studios at TVCN, the home of the Tampa Native Show. Join your host, Mario Nunez, as he celebrates growing up in Tampa. From Shock Armstrong to Shakey's Pizza, from Braddock Street to Buffalo Avenue. Get ready to call in and tell us your stories, because sharing your memories has never been this much fun. And now, your host, Mario Nunez.
She remembers me.
Hi, Tampa Native Show fans. Welcome back to this, your Thursday 7 o'clock edition. Well, last week we were on at 6:30, as I recall. Your 7 o'clock edition of the Tampa Native Show. I'm your host, Mario Nunez, in for a special treat tonight. Tonight we have joining us in studio Sandy Ficca, Robinson High School, class of 71. David Muse, what class was it again?
67.
Oh, here we go. And David Muse, class of 67, Dunedin High School, both active members of legendary rock group Firefall that will be performing tomorrow night with Little River Band at Ruth Eckerd Hall. They're going to be joining us in just a couple of minutes. If I can get this frog out of my throat, we're going to get the show started right quick. Let me just say, just remember I love you. That's the theme for tonight's song. Be ruminating on that. We're going to be talking a little bit more about that, about what these guys have been doing. Also, if you've got emails for us, you've got questions or comments, you remember going to see these guys like I did at Lakeland Civic Center back in 1978 with Firefall 7 or with Heart. I believe it was either 77 or 78. That was a long time ago. You want to send us an email, send that to goodtimes@tampanativeshow.com. We're not taking phone calls tonight. We had a little snafu before we left the house tonight. We didn't bring all of our accoutrements, so we don't have any bolita balls. We're not going to be doing our bolita drawing tonight. Don't let that dissuade you from participating. Send us an email. I've got my laptop here open, ready for you. TBX. Last week we did a show on the TBX, Tampa Bay Express. Yeah, we addressed the city council this morning. You know what? We're going to need all of our voices present and accounted for next week when we address the MPO, because it looks like they are getting momentum on their side, and hell or high water, they're going to try to ramrod this thing through. 16 lanes of traffic, high-priced Lexus lanes in the middle with variable rates of toll expense. It's just untenable. It's a $9 billion boondoggle. We talked about it last week. That show will immediately follow this show. At 8 o'clock, you can flip over to channels 36 Verizon, 638 Bright House, and you can watch that show, get informed. If you don't know about what TBX is all about, you need to, because we're going to lose more historic buildings in Seminole Heights, Tampa Heights, Ybor City, and West Tampa. And that's just something that we can't ill afford. Happy birthdays today to PJ Testa, who's out there watching. PJ Testa and Charlie Gonzalez, two Tampeños celebrating happy birthdays today. Let me talk a little bit about this new look that I'm throwing down tonight. Y'all liking this? I'm digging the scene right here. Okay, this is my new haircut. Got it today. Sometimes when you get a new haircut, Sandy Ficca will know a little bit about this. You'll meet him in a few minutes. When you get a new haircut, sometimes, the hair doesn't cooperate. You go to comb it, it's like yesterday it combed really nice, but now it's freaking out because it's all cut. Well, my stylist, her name is Emu, and I'm going to flash up her phone number here in just a minute, because if you're like me and you suffer from, if you're follically challenged like I have become and becoming more of, hey, go see Emu. She can take care of you. Her specialty is working with guys with diminishing hair. Not that I'm one of those, but I am. Anyway, Emu, thank you so much. I know you're out there watching tonight, and I said I would give you a shout out, so there it is. There's her phone number. If you need to get that special work done and you're out in the Carrollwood area, go see Amu. Also, let me say about the Carrollwood area. Those of you that live in Carrollwood, you know where Abby's health food store is? Well, right next to Abby's is a restaurant called Brunchies. If you've ever been to Brunchies, good for you. If you've never been to Brunchies, don't go. And I just want to tell you why. Because this week we had a horrific experience. Had to talk to the manager. It was kind of one of those things where, you know, all of a sudden, how did breakfast get to be $30? It was an omelet, for crying out loud. You crack a couple of eggs, you get some toast. Anyway, the service was less than adequate, less than enthusiastic, and the manager had this laissez-faire, I don't really care whether you come back ever again or not. So I told him, I said, hey, Billy, I got a TV show, man. I talk to a lot of people. And I'm going to talk about your business that's really nothing more than a Denny's with linen napkins. Okay, I've got that off my chest. It's the worst coffee. It gave me a little bit of a stomach ache. Brunchies. I've got their frequent flyer card that I'm going to be mailing back to them because I've just about eaten there for the last time. All right. Got a little video I want to show you, kind of put you in the mood. This video goes about 50 seconds, not very long, but it's important for a lot of reasons. You're going to meet the two guys that are going to be joining us here in just a couple of minutes, and you're also going to see somebody near and dear to our hearts. We lost him a year ago now. Mr. Joe Lala, class of '65, Jefferson High School, who will be inducted into the Jefferson High School Alumni Hall of Fame next weekend. Well-deserved accolade. Joe's actually on this video because this was a reunion that took place with Firefall a few years back, and Joe was invited to sit in, and you'll get a chance to see him. So enjoy this little clip. When we come back, you'll meet David Muse, and you'll say hello once again to Sandy Ficca. Stay tuned.
Meet and greet is not in that way. I don't know. You know, those people are going to watch this. That's fine. Okay. Pretty crazy. I used to
Can you beat this? I'm as nervous as Paris Hilton at a spelling bee.
I'm ready to have a good time all the time, but especially tonight. These are my old buddies, and it's a real pleasure to be back with them.
This is a wonderful night, celebration, a big celebration of beautiful songs, wonderful group, wonderful time of my life.
It is cuckoo, cockeyed, and crazy out there.
Crazy!
Rock and roll. So, ladies and gentlemen, you caught me there with my glasses on. This is Sandy Ficca. That's David Muse.
Hello.
Welcome, guys, to the show.
Thank
Sandy,
you.
welcome back.
Thanks for having me back.
David, great to meet you.
Well, it's my pleasure,
Seen
too.
you perform many times, my brother, and I tell you what, there's some serious talent there. Not the Sandy, you got the chops, because you've been working it for a while, too.
Yeah, I have.
But they always put the drummers in the back, David. You know what I mean? And they're always fighting, to be seen. And you can always hear them. They're the backbone and the backbeat and the rhythm and the heartbeat of the band. We know that.
Well, yeah. Well, one thing about Firefall, that old saying, it takes two to tango. Well, it takes five in our case. You
guys are great.
And Sandy's the bottom end of that,
Yes, he is. That heavy foot, those big paws.
Yeah.
And we can't wait to hear you tomorrow night. Let's talk a little bit about David. I want our fans to meet you. I want them to know a little bit more about where you got your music interest. And we talked about it at the top, man. You're a Dunedin High School. The Highlanders? Am I right on that? Dunedin?
No, the Falcons.
Oh, really?
Yes,
Why
yes,
did
yes.
I think
yes.
it was high? Why did I think you guys with the kilts and what's going on
we did
there?
have the kilts. That
Okay.
was the name of the band. In junior high school was the Highlanders. The high school, the Dunedin Falcons. I played football, and then that's when I got into. I found out while I was the captain of the football team, I found I could go out on the weekend and make $35 and chase girls and play rock and roll. And so I said, hey, this makes sense,
First instrument of choice?
I started out on clarinet, believe it or not, in Dunedin Junior High School, and had a Dixieland band. That tells you how old I am. Mm-hmm. And the Beatles came out, and I realized I'll never get a job as a clarinet player. I better figure something else out. So I started playing bass guitar in those days, and then went from there. Then one band broke up, and decided that, well, I can't get a job as a bass player, so I'll go back and play saxophone and play keyboards, whatever it took to get a job. That's what I did in those days.
Were you always musically inclined? Or did music always kind of come natural to you?
Yeah, I did. Nobody else in my family. I don't know where it came from. It just came. I loved it. Actually, this goes back a ways. In junior high school, I had the Dixieland Band. We won the talent show, and we went on a local TV show in Tampa called High Time.
Miss Jean Morris.
Way back, and we were the winners of the show, so we got to go on High Time, and I got it in my blood very early. It's like, oh, the camera's on, let's play,
We had the good fortune of having Miss Jean Morris on the show with us. Robin Sibukow. Jean's son-in-law is Roger Stephan. Who plays drums for Cuckoo Cachoo. So through our association, they said, hey, Marty, would you like us to see if we could reach out and get Jean? Jean lives in Jacksonville, and she was the hostess of High Time.
Right.
So isn't that, things all just happen serendipitously. I didn't know that, but it makes perfect sense that you would have been on that show.
Well, yeah, and that was the start for me. And in those days, there was not that many clubs around Tampa, but, there was a lot of bands where teenagers, there was a handful of bands, but there were places we could play. There was, the Silhouette Club, and then there was Surfers Club down on St. Pete Beach, and then, Margie Sexton in those days booked a lot of bands. And then there was a fellow by the name of A.J. Perry who used to book the Armory and the Clearwater Auditorium, and they would bring in, one national act, and they'd have like 3 or 4 local acts, and
Sure.
I got to open up for Mitch Ryder and the Detroit Wheels
That's
at
not
Clearwater
bad company.
Auditorium. No, it was it was quite a night, So
Sandy, did you ever cross paths, before Firefall with David? I mean, you left Tampa. We discussed this before. You left Tampa rather early,
Right.
but did you ever, at the beach playing on one of these gigs? Or?
No, I never ran across David, but it was funny. I was living in Fort Lauderdale, and Firefall did their early albums at Criteria Studios in Miami. And I went down there to do a session, and Michael Laskow, who was the engineer on my session, was an assistant on the Firefall stuff. And then he moved to a studio in Fort Lauderdale, and I went in there to do another session, and Michael goes, hey man, I played some of your stuff for Rick Roberts from Firefall, and he really liked what you were doing. And this was before I ever joined the band, and that just kind of stuck with me, and then all of a sudden there I am, in the band.
You had an opportunity?
And then I crossed paths with David. But
Seized
it took a while, because David wasn't in the band when I first joined.
I quit first time in 1981, and then a few years after that I joined the Marshall Tucker Band and played with them for about 8-9 years.
Well, that wasn't bad, though, huh? Marshall Tucker had a nice little run as well.
Well, we in the old days, Firefall and Marshall Tucker, we played a lot of gigs together. Matter of fact, first time Marshall Tucker played Madison Square Garden in New York, it was with us, and we split the show, and that was, so we go back a long way. I knew all the old guys, and I got a call from Doug Gray one day and said, hey, Jerry's quitting, come join the band. I said, hey, why not? Of course, I didn't know. At that point in time, I was a little older, and it's like my first year was on the road 233 days out of the year, which
wow,
is,
that's a heavy load.
That's a lot,
That's a heavy load.
Yeah,
you talked about playing the keyboards. You play the sax. We know you play the flute.
Right.
You talked early on about learning the bass because you figured, okay, I can't be Pete Fountain and the Beatles are in town now. You know what I mean?
Right,
so I got to
right.
do some Paul McCartney.
Right.
I'm thinking that kind of had to help your versatility-wise, your marketability, I should say. In other words, they're looking at you in different ways.
I always
How you can help a band.
describe myself as a master, a jack of all trades, master of none, but it keeps me working.
Yeah, and those of us that have heard you play will dispute that, because I tell you what, when you get to work your solo magic, it's a lot of fun. And I think the hallmark of some of Firefall's songs, Sandy, if I'm wrong, if I'm off base on this, you correct me, are some of your solos, man, some of your riffs. Jock's with his guitar, certainly.
Right.
But, we remember the sax and we remember the flute.
Well, I go back and, we were the epitome of what really makes a band, because we were 6 guys that, guys that brought something to the table. It was like each individually, okay, you know, but you put it together. It was like a wheel with all the spokes tuned
Absolutely.
very well, and it ran really well for a while, you know.
And as a unit, you guys were better than some of its parts individually.
Right. That's what I was trying to say.
And you played some big venues, man. You played some big venues. I mean, you mentioned Madison's MSG,
Yeah.
but you also got you got off the continental United States. You traveled a little bit to Europe.
Oh yeah, Europe,
Sandy,
Japan.
big venues over there. Did you remember what stands out?
We didn't do like big venues because it was kind of after the peak of the band.
Right, which would have been late
But-
70s, early 80s.
Yeah, but they did
81.
Japan
Yeah.
with Heart and
Hart and the Beach Boys, and that was quite a thing, you know, going over there. We played. I remember we played in Inoshima Harbor, and then we went to Kyoto. And at that gig in Kyoto, Hart was playing, and we had the stage had a big tarp on it. It started raining, and had the trusses, and the rain started collecting, and it started to sag, and all of a sudden it busted, and the truss came down and hit Hart's drummer. It just grazed his nose like that. It had been another quarter inch, it would have split his head open. You know, it was like a very. I'm sitting on the side of the stage with my camera going, and it wasn't until like 5 minutes later I go, oh, I got a camera. I need to take
Stunned when
Yeah,
you saw
really.
that. Well, you know, and we see that all too often. At times, it's usually inclement weather at some state fair that blows up all of a sudden, and then all of a sudden the whole transom, everything just collapses. But you did play with Hart for a good minute. Tell me a little bit about the dynamics on that. I think people would be interested in knowing when you guys like click. You know, Ann and Nancy call you, their manager calls you and says, hey, you know, we like what you guys are doing. Our sounds are compatible and fun. Let's package this thing. So let's go on the road together. Is that how it kind of works?
Well, you know, it's more of a management thing. I mean, you know, you got to know everybody. I mean, we played with a lot of people in the old days. We, you know, played with the Doobie Brothers a whole lot. A matter of fact, after our first album, we started playing with the Doobie Brothers, and before that, I'd been in Atlanta, Georgia, playing in Scarlett O'Hara's in the Underground Atlanta in the house band, and we've been playing, listening to the music, and then all of a sudden I'm in Colorado, I do an album, then I'm on the road, and then I'm out singing the encore with the Doobie Brothers, you know, listen to the music and go, hey, I dig this, you know, this is
This is
cool.
good. This will work.
You know, so.
Drummers don't have a lot of the ability, not the ability, but you know, you grab your sax, you grab your flute, man, you can be anywhere. You're mobile. Drummers got to be back here. We got to be doing what we do. We're kind of fixed. We're kind of stayed. How do you overcome that, Sandy? I mean, what keeps you motivated to be there? And you know, because I mean, drummers, in a lot of ways, sometimes they don't. You know, they're the forgotten guys. Right. You think Phil Collins? Forgive me, the band.
Levon Helm.
Levon Helm. You think, you know, these are the guys that, you know, obviously sang and played the drums. Mm-hmm. Out front, up high. How does a drummer keep motivated?
Well, I think the biggest thing for me is I know that without me, they're nothing.
Baby. So you just keep reminding yourself. That's pretty good.
Yeah. Well, you know, I can attest to that because for a while we were doing these little trio gigs, you know, where we played without a drummer.
Kind of acoustic.
Yeah, and we did one in Clearwater one time, and I got included as it was a quartet, but we didn't have Sandy. And the thing I remember about that day, we were all over the place. You know, it's like, now I know why we have a drummer, you know.
Gotta have that beat.
I remember we've done a lot of gigs with Poco, and I became really, really good friends with Paul Cotton. Mm-hmm. And the Firefall Trio opened for Poco on a show. So the next time that the full band played with Poco, I said, hey, Paul, what'd you think of the trio? And he goes, you know, they were just like a band that needed a drummer.
There it is.
And I was like, I know why you're my buddy now. You know?
Drummers stick together, besides which it's absolutely important. It's the bass two. It's the bass two that's kind of, you know, the bottom. You need that steady.
Oh, yeah. But
everybody plays off and around that, but you need that.
Yeah, but you know, like David said, it really takes everybody. And after a while, we start, like David and I do things together, and we play off each other sometimes. And then Mark's been back in the band, what, about a year?
2 years now.
2 years? Wow.
Yeah.
And I'm getting to where I really know Mark, and everybody feeds off each other, and it's really a cool thing, and that's when it's the best.
From a fan's perspective, and when we're sitting out here watching you guys perform, first of all, for guys like myself who have the music all up in me, okay, and can sing a little bit, can dance a little bit, and can tap a little bit, maybe don't have the formal, but just love to be in the presence of talented live musicians. So, we've found ourselves following Rodney's band, Rodney Justo's band, Coo 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 Choo, very talented musicians, and if you've been around them a while and you've listened to their playlist, you get to know where the breaks come in. You get to know when, okay, this is Roy's solo, this is going to be Robin's. And now I'm a little more sophisticated than the average fan because now I'm looking at them, looking at each other, and making that eye contact, knowing when break is coming next and what are we going to do and where we're going to go. Talk a little bit about that interplay on stage. You just touched on it, but because not unlike an athletic team that knows, where your playmate is. He's right here. He's always right there. You can hear him, in this case, with the music. How does that, is that something that develops organically? How does that work?
It takes time, and actually, that's the magic music, the magic moments of playing music. I mean, you play most of the time the same songs every night. You know what the arrangements are, but then it's just like sports. You get in a groove. You get in that moment, and then those things come. Especially like when you're soloing, those things come out of you that you've never played before. And I don't know where that came from, but boy,
that was good.
I'm glad it was there.
I'm glad it was there.
And then he'll do it again, and then I'll latch on to what
Right.
he's doing.
Excellent.
And it's
So you guys can still
just
find
morphs.
moments of inspiration
Yeah.
where even though you've been playing together for 20, 25 years, it's still there.
There are songs like we play "You Are the Woman," which is our biggest hit, been played 7 million
I'm
times.
not familiar with that. So
know.
what a great song.
But I'm saying it. It's a little 3-minute song, and there's no room for solos. I mean, it's just what it is. But that was our biggest hit. But there are other times when we're doing "Strange Way" in Mexico and "So Long" and all these other songs where everybody's stretching out on solos. Those, for us. Especially for me, those are the times that I look for, because that's when you can just be in the moment and let the inspiration come through, and that's what you're there for. If you had to play "You Are the Woman" 12 times every night, it was like
It'd get a little stayed.
maybe I stay home.
It'd get a
tonight.
little stayed.
Yeah.
Well, I can tell you from where we sit on the other side of that, while we're watching you guys, when you get into that spirit, man, you're in that moment that you're talking about. We can tell. We can tell because you light up. You know what I mean? The horn is present, and everybody else in the band knows it too. And it's a lot of fun. It's just, I can tell you, and live music is something that, unless you're experiencing it there's quite nothing like it. We talked about, get a little off topic, but we talked about it the other night at dinner, the experience that you have when you're watching race cars go around the track at 160 miles an hour, bumper to bumper. That doesn't translate on TV. You watch a hockey game on TV, it doesn't translate on TV. You got to be there to hear the ice and to hear the skates on the ice and the guys crashing against the board and the speed. When you're there present and you can hear through your best Bose noise canceling speakers wonderfully arranged music that's been produced in the studio. But then when you're there live, it goes through you. Yeah. It's pretty good stuff.
It's a little different too. I remember Rick Roberts and I grew up in Clearwater, and we had some of our first bands together. And I remember I was playing bass in his band, and our band, I should say, and we practiced in his mom and dad's flower shop called Alice May Flower Shops, downtown Clearwater, right across from the old jail. And I remember playing there, and we were practicing the song, and the groove just started happening, and I got chills. And that's when I said, you know what? Maybe I don't want to play football anymore.
Because you can get that rush in another way without tearing up your knees or tearing up your shoulders or your back.
Well, I love to play football, and I love contact sports on a friendly basis. I'm not, I don't like to fight or anything like that.
Right, but you don't mind get bumping in there.
No, but that was something special when that happened to me. I just go, this is cool.
Captain of the football team, what position did you find yourself playing most times?
Well, in those days, we didn't have a lot of guys. I played actually defense and offense.
Sure.
I was a fullback and a linebacker.
There you go, right in the middle of all the action, man.
And in those days, we didn't have a lot of formation, so I was free to roam as a linebacker. I loved to just get in the slot, and they didn't know where I was coming from.
Suspension helmets, man, and 2-bar face masks. Here we go. Little meat hook maybe to keep the hands from coming in, but that's
got knocked out a couple times.
Oh,
but,
absolutely, absolutely. Back in the '60s, in the middle '60s especially, that's when it was kind of rough. I mean, I I played in high school in the middle to late 70s, middle 70s. And our equipment wasn't that much different from what you had. Right. You know, we were transitioning from the full suspension helmets to the foam interior, but we weren't quite there yet. And man, you know, when you banged heads, you know, it made an awful racket, and then, you know, you saw stars.
Our biggest, highest tech equipment we had was the rubber mouthpiece.
Mouthpiece to keep your teeth in line. Sandy, did you play any sports, Sandy? We talked about it.
I played baseball.
There we go.
I played baseball for a long time until high school, where I had to make the decision.
Right.
Am I going to play drums or baseball? And
where'd you find yourself playing on the field?
Catcher.
I was going to say, you know, were you the guy that was facing everybody else?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. We talked about that during the World Series. Did you guys watch a little bit of the World Series?
I watched a little bit.
Wasn't it incredibly entertaining?
Yeah.
I mean, two teams pretty evenly matched. KC started to kind of stretch and get a little bit the upper hand on New York towards the end there. But, man, those first few games were just back and forth amazing. And for me personally, the Kansas City catcher, Sal Perez, at 6'5", 225 pounds, I'm thinking, what a big fella.
Like me playing Little League and Sandy catch, and I'd have to go, I don't know if I want to steal home.
you know, I don't want to run into that big fella. And he was so big, he kept getting hit by foul balls and you know, getting his hand hit with the bat. And, you know, there is, I guess, such a thing as being a little too big for a position, and that may have been it. But that was a wildly entertaining series, and it didn't surprise me that, you know, baseball might have been first for you because, you know, if you spend a lot of time in the South, growing up in the South, baseball, especially in the Tampa area, you know, we have that tradition. Clearwater as well. There's some big boys that came out of Clearwater as well.
Well, you know, I played in Dunedin, and I played Little League, and I was on the All-Star team, but I usually played outfield or second base, but then our coach got the big idea that I was going to be a pitcher. All I had was a fastball. And my first game I pitched no hitter.
Get out.
But I walked 13 and hit 4, and we lost the game.
And it wasn't a no-hitter.
You were a Nuke LaRouche. You threw it hard, just didn't know exactly where it was going.
But, you know, after the third or fourth inning, all their other team, they were scared to come up to bat.
Was it one of those things where, you know, because a lot of times in Little League especially, there'll be a disparity. You know, some guys hit puberty and they'll stretch out.
Right. And,
you know, you'll get a guy that's 5'9", 5'10", and, you know, what happened to me? I'm 4'11", 5 foot.
Right.
So there's a big, were you kind of tall and rangy back then?
I was, you know,
medium
height, average height, you know, but I did have a fastball, but, you know, I didn't have much control.
I didn't know necessarily where it was going.
I was big enough they had to check my birth certificate every year.
Okay.
Yeah. See, that's an advantage. That's a distinct advantage when you're a little guy. PAL football around here, remember the weight restriction. I think they still have it too. You know, you couldn't be too big. It's kind of the equalizer.
Right.
I always liked wrestling for that reason too.
We didn't have that when I was growing up.
PAL football?
We didn't have it.
Yeah.
I wrestled in high school.
Yeah, wrestling was another thing that was, you know, you always wrestled in your weight. It's like boxing. You wrestled in your weight class.
But my weight class was called Unlimited.
Unlimited.
So
big
I wrestled mutants.
Yeah, you wrestled big fellas.
I remember wrestling some guy in Plant City, and he walks out on the mat, and I'm like, I may as well just lay down.
What'd I do with that?
He was like 6'8" and weighed probably 400 pounds. You know, it was like Haystack Calhoun or something.
You remember him?
Oh, yeah.
What was his claim to fame? What did he wear around his
overalls?
And his adornment was he used to have what did he have on his chain? At the end of his chain?
I couldn't
Ready?
tell you. Yeah.
A horseshoe.
Okay.
A real horseshoe. Haystacks Calhoun. Hey, we've got a video we want to show you guys. Kind of take a little bit of a break here, catch our breath. Let you catch your breath, and I'm going to check emails while we do this. I think you're going to enjoy this. It's about 4 minutes. It's, I believe it's Goodbye, I Love You, and it's a wonderful version of it. In the back, you'll see Joe Lala playing congas. You'll see all these guys doing what they do. All right, let me set it up this way. You know, there was probably in the middle 70s, early 74 to 77, you know, you had Barry White doing his thing and Donna Summer doing hers. And that was kind of romantic, fun music, you know, put everybody kind of in the mood. But a little bit later on when Firefall came on the scene, the music that you heard, number one, you always learned all the lyrics and you always sang along with the radio. And two, you know, it was kind of like cruising music. It was kind of like, yeah, you hope you had your sweetheart with you because just great, great music. Here's a perfect illustration. Enjoy this. We'll be back in about 4 minutes.
All right, we'd like to do a song for you called Goodbye, I Love You. Hope you enjoy it.
It's not that way. Maybe I love you more than you know. Maybe you'll know someday. Maybe you think it's easy for me, easy to say goodbye. Maybe it hurts me more than you see. All I can do is cry. But love is not enough to make you mine, oh mine. You need someone who's gonna be there all the time. Someone to treat you better. Someone to see it through. Someone who never say goodbye, I love you. 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 You need a man who's always around whenever you're feeling low. You need a man who won't let you down. You need your man at home. You need the time to let yourself live. You haven't lived enough. You need the one thing I cannot give. You need the time to love. But love is not enough to make you mine, oh mine. You need someone who's gonna be there all the time. Someone to treat you better. Someone to see you through. Someone who never say goodbye, I love you. 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 Goodbye, I love
How about that, ladies and gentlemen, huh? How many of us at home were singing along with that? That's just sweet and you just want to go hug your television. Well, I got these two guys right here next to me. While it was going on, we were kind of talking a little bit. And David said something that was quite interesting because he was talking about how, you know, at times you think, you know, I can do that. You know, I'm a pretty good saxophone player. I've always been first chair since junior high, and you know, I think I can do that. Well, it takes sometimes a little bit more than just the chops. And I'll let David speak to it here in just a second, but you know, sometimes it's a matter of timing and being in the right place. David, were you?
Well, yeah,
elaborate.
A lot of times out on the road, you know, mom and dads or, you know, have a son or a daughter that's trying to get into music business, and they'll come up and they'll go, how do you get into music business? And my answer has always been, well, you have to have a certain amount of talent, a certain amount of chops. You know, you have to be ready to go at any time and be in the right place at the right time, because it's sort of like the spokes in a wheel. If there's one spoke missing, then the wheel's not going to turn.
It's not going to turn proper. And we talked a little bit about Joe Lala and you know, what a special talent he was, and that's how kind of the conversation came full circle, that, you know, Joe was also in the right place at the right time, and he had the opportunity to play.
Yeah, he was on the A team in LA and in the right years, and that's why he got to play with so many people. Not to say that he wasn't very talented and just a sweetheart, but you know.
He had a huge personality, and that goes a long way.
Yeah.
In just about everything, Sandy.
Yeah.
In just about everything. Certainly in the music business. You know, an actor, not unlike a musician, an entertainer. You know, you can be supremely talented, but if you're hard to work with and hard to get along with, you're not going to get as many opportunities. They'll give the guy who's maybe not quite as talented, but really a good guy on set, never late, always knows his lines.
Well, it's the same way with bands, because, you know, being in a band is like a very dynamic thing, you know, and it's a lot more than just playing. It's about being on time. It's about doing your homework, having a good attitude. If you're a pain in the butt, then nobody's going to want to work with you. You know,
great lessons in I think across the board in life.
Tell us a little bit about your nephew and as it relates to being in the right place at the right time. Tell everybody what you just told me a second ago.
Okay, well, my nephew is Denny Hamlin, who is a NASCAR driver, who unfortunately just got eliminated from the chase, but for the second time ever. But he was about ready to quit, and because his parents, they over and over, and actually Denny was born here.
Yeah, Denny was born here in Tampa.
Yeah.
Well, he's a Tampa native.
Yeah.
We'll get him on the show.
Okay. But he was about to quit because they couldn't afford to buy engines anymore.
Right. It's very expensive.
And so he was signing up for his last race in Richmond, you know, at the local track, and an owner heard him talking to a friend about it. And the owner said, "Denny, I've got cars, why don't you come and race for me?" And Denny said, okay. So he went and he started racing for this guy, and the guy was going to sell Joe Gibbs Racing some cars. And so he took Denny to the track to demonstrate the cars, and while he was doing that, he broke the track record in Richmond. And Joe Gibbs was like, hello,
who's that
guy?
Yeah.
You know?
And can we get him?
Yeah, and that's a prime example of being in the right time. Or
right place.
Right place at the right time.
And getting that break.
And getting the break.
But once you step through, then that's where the chops come in.
Yeah.
That's when you got to be now, okay.
He had the chops. It was right there. They saw him, and boom, there you go.
Wow, that's super stuff. Hey, are we working on anything here individually, independently? Guys, I know we got the big show tomorrow night. We'll talk about that a little bit, but I would be remiss if I didn't ask you. There you go.
Well,
Mr.
yeah,
Muse,
you know,
what are you doing here?
A few years ago, well, actually for a long time I've thought about it, but finally this year I finally put it together. I've been, you know, being an instrumentalist and playing sax and flute, I always enjoyed jazz and smooth jazz. And I decided that, you know, I would like to try to do some of that. And my idea that I started this year was, well, I'm going to do that, but you know, this is my history, so I'm going to take all the Firefall hits, maybe not all of them, but most of them, and I'm going to make them into smooth jazz tracks where I'm instrumentally playing the melodies and the heads on them, and we change the groove around a little bit, you know. So that's what I've been working on, and it's coming together very well. I'm about 3/4 of the way finished. I plan on having it released at the end of January next year. And very excited about it, you know. All the feedback I've gotten so far has been very positive, you know. So, I mean, here's songs that have been hits. Now they're smooth jazz songs, and the guy that's doing them had something to do with the original hit. So it's all good, you know.
It's all right at home. It feels good, right?
Yeah, I'm calling it. It's going to be Dave Muse, Firefall Revisited, and that's what I've been
And it's like
working
that
on.
old sweatshirt, when you put that old sweatshirt on, you know, it's a little worn, maybe a little threadbare, not that the songs are by any stretch, it just feels good, it feels comfortable.
Yeah.
We've got a sample, you mind if we play
No,
it?
I would love for you to play it. I mean, they have to realize this is, it's not finished, it's not mixed, it's just to
You
give
heard it first, right here.
There you
That's
go.
right. Give
It's
you
a
a little-
breaking,
give you a little
breaking
taste.
story right here on the Tampa Native
is-
Show, because that's how we roll up here in the Tampa Native Show. You know, we're going to preview stuff before it ever hits the marketplace, and this will just give you a little taste.
Yeah, this is a song that we did on Clouds Across the Sun. It's a song of mine called Dreamers.
Here you go. Listen up, y'all. Wow, we hope you enjoyed that, and there's so much more coming. You know, again, David's right here in our own backyard. He travels with Sandy. They're all over the country. They're still playing. How many gigs a year would you say?
We average probably 40 or 50 gigs a year. We're basically out on the weekends, but we have done this year and the year before that, we did a Cell Rock tour with Christopher Cross in Orleans.
Correction. They did. I did.
Well,
Where was
anyway.
Sandy?
Yeah, well, that's a different story.
All right, we'll go on. That's for another show. That's for another show. That's the after-hours show.
That's the tease.
That's the tease. Well, Christopher Cross, you know, he had a pretty good run too.
He still got a good run. I saw him on Jimmy Fallon not too long ago. So.
He's still creating. He's got a studio in Austin, right? He's still Austin.
I think so.
Born and raised.
Somewhere around
somewhere
there,
down the Austin area.
Yeah. He has a place in New York City too. You know, his daughter goes to school in New York, so.
I'll extend the open invitation to you, David, when your CD is completed, your compilation is completed. If you'd like to come back,
I'd love to.
We can talk more about it on the show. We'd love to have you back come January, whenever. The invitation is open and standing. Bring a CD with you. We'll give one away on the show. Sandy, you know you can be here anytime with us. Hey, Sandy, can we talk for a minute or two about what we experienced here with our dear friends from Canada the other day? Not to leave David out of this conversation, but the next time we do this, we want to bring David in on this, I think.
Yeah.
I think David needs to be with us.
By the way, thank you again. I was invited to go to dinner at the Columbia Restaurant, Tampa landmark.
Sure.
And with Martio and Sally, and I walk in and there's like 12 people at the table. I'm like, oh, okay. And a lot of the people were from Canada, and they were like all professors.
Yeah.
And young though, not like old professors. And one of the guys was
Peter
also,
Levesque.
That was the Canadian guy. But Don
Barco. Don
Barco, who owns King Corona, he was there. So after dinner, Don invited everybody to go down to King Corona, and I'm not a cigar smoker at all. And I was actually kind of dreading going in this little closed up room with a bunch of people smoking cigars. But after a couple of minutes, I recovered, and the conversation was just amazing. And these guys were so intelligent, and I just felt so under the radar and gone. But also the guy who's the tour guide.
Oh, Joe Howden, our friend Joe Howden.
In Ybor City.
Sure.
Man, he was talking about the history of Ybor City, and the Canadians and him were, you know, interspersing all kinds of stuff. And then I realized that my family started in Ybor City, and we didn't really talk about it much in my family.
Right.
And the whole time I was in high school, I don't think I ever went to Ybor City. Maybe once. But, you know, the fact that my father used to hang the Cuban bread on the nails on everybody's doors, and my uncle was a lector in the cigar factory, and then you guys were telling me how big a deal that was, you know. And so it was a really, really great night.
Terrific night and very inspirational, brother.
Yeah.
And rumor has it, man, that, you know, there may be a trip. I'm not sure. We're going to try to do this, a trip to Cuba afoot. We're just planning it. We're just in the planning stages.
That would
David,
be awesome.
You been?
I'm in.
Are you interested in going?
Oh, I love Latin.
How about Firefall playing a concert in Havana, Cuba?
If they can't,
Can I book that for you?
If
Go right ahead.
Can I book that?
If you can't book Firefall, you book my little jazz thing because
Oh, David,
stuff.
now we're talking. Ladies and gentlemen, you heard it here first. You got a deal, my brother. That would be amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, it's just an hour away. It's literally the same distance flying time, about 57 minutes, wheels up to touchdown, as it is from here to Atlanta.
Yeah.
You know, barely enough time to finish a cup of coffee. Really.
Well, you know, being a flute player, I've always really appreciated Latin music anyway, and one of my favorite flute players is Nestor Torres. You know,
yes.
You know, he's great.
Oh,
you
yes.
know, and you know, I mean, he's younger than I am, and he does a lot of the same stuff that I've been doing for years. But still, that's not taking anything away from Nestor. But to go to Cuba or, you know, anywhere in Latin America and just, I mean, I know there's phenomenal players down there. You know, and I could learn so much. You know, I mean, I'm basically just an old Georgia boy playing flute. You know, but. Somewhere in my
somewhere in your DNA, brother,
I got a Latino.
Tell them the name.
No, I don't know. I originally had an idea. Now I hope people won't take this the wrong way, but you know, being from Georgia and being basically raised with rednecks, and I wanted to do a jazz CD. When I first started doing the jazz, thinking about it, I thought about calling the CD Redneck Latino.
You know, there's a T-shirt there waiting to happen.
I mean, I was hoping, and I asked a lot of my friends that are Latino. I said, "Does this offend you?" Because I don't want to offend you. Right. I don't mean it in that way.
Right,
you know, it's just the fact that I love Latin music and I'm from Georgia.
Well, your part is the most offensive part of that 2 words.
No, your talent speaks for itself. Both of you guys are extremely talented and wonderfully approachable guys. You know, it's not always the case, man. You know, there are some times where guys that hit a certain level of success and sustained success, and they become a little unapproachable at times. I think that for the most part, probably 60, 70, 80% are not there because they're realizing that, you know what, I can still be viable and I can still make a living into my late 50s, 60s, and maybe even early 70s. The Rolling Stones are still touring. But I gotta soften my approach a little bit. I gotta be a little bit more available to the public. You guys have been this way since the beginning, and I appreciate you coming on the show. We're gonna do some fun stuff together. I want to stay close with you as this music CD develops. What were you gonna say, David? I'm sorry.
Well, nothing except for the fact that, you know, a lot of those people that you're talking about, they start, you know, they get into the rock and roll, become big stars, and they start to believe their own bullcrap, basically what I call it.
Yep.
But basically, you know, any celebrity or any star is no more bigger than in the minds of the people that listen or watch or whatever, you know. So, you know, without the people, you're not a star. We're all human beings, you know.
There you go.
And we all have the same flaws, you know. So don't get too much into yourself.
One night recently, we were playing, and David was talking, and he said, you know, we really want to thank you guys for being our fans, and
because you've helped us keep being able to do this for so long, because I can't do anything else.
So there's something really, really, that's heartfelt and it's
true.
meaningful.
It's true. I mean, hey,
Lest you would be at the bottom of the stairwell when the people are coming down from the spring training game with your saxophone playing Christmas carols. I don't know what that means.
Let me say this too, because I mean, I come back to town, and every now and then, just like Ukukuju, I play some local gigs, and I have a lot of friends that are very talented, have never been able to get out of the bar scene. So I feel so fortunate, to be able to go do what I do, and especially at my age, the fact that I'm still able to be able to travel throughout the world and play in front of people and have them appreciate what I do, just means a whole lot,
Wow. And on the island, we'll go back to Cuba for just a minute. I think that there's always been a relationship between the flute and Caribbean-centric music.
Oh, yeah.
The saxophone with the jazz, that's always been there as well. It's a component, certainly. The congas, the tumba, the timbales, the clave we talked about, the maracas. They would eat you guys up, man. They would eat Firefall up down there. And they'd know your music, too.
Well, they do. But we played a gig, what was it, last year before in Miami, and we had a conga player come out. What was that fellow's name?
Richie Bravo.
Yeah, who played with Nestor Torres, and he's from South America, and I was telling him how much of an honor it was to play with him. And we'd done Strange Way, and I did my little flute and Latin thing, and he go, man, we know your music down there. They'd love to have you guys down there, so.
He was playing with Barry Gibb.
Yeah.
When we were down there.
Yeah, well,
on his victory tour, I think he called it.
So we've got a date, man. We're gonna develop this conversation. I want to make sure that everybody remembers it tomorrow night, and the house probably isn't sold out. Although if it isn't, it will be pretty soon, because they're going to be playing alongside of Little River
Band.
I'm so excited. Little River Band. Say that 3 times fast. Which also, oh, by the way, has a tremendous playlist, songs that we all remember from that magical time in the 70s and 80s when we were all in our youth.
And they're playing with the symphony orchestra.
Oh, and they're playing with the symphony. Come on.
Yeah. Right.
Come on. Are you serious?
Yeah. And we don't play with them often, but I know back in the old days when they first came from Australia to the country here, the first American tour, they opened up for Firefall for about a month, And then we ended up opening up for them after a while, but that's another story.
Yeah.
And they're still great.
It can happen.
They're still great, and they're great guys.
And they're good guys.
Yeah. And it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah. And you guys, when you guys get together, it's old times.
Yeah.
You swap stories. You say, hey, how's your back? How was your surgery? How's the kids?
Yeah.
Because, you got families.
There's more of that now than back
before.
in the day.
Sure. Back in the day is where we're going to go after the show.
Exactly.
Yeah. If you don't mind, I forgot to say one thing about my CD. I wanted to recognize some of the fellas that are playing on it because they're Tampa. Well, it is Tampa Bay because they're from Clearwater.
You can say Tampa Bay area.
But Dave and Ron Reinhardt, who play with Richard Elliott, and they play with all the smooth jazz guys, and Tim George, and Goombi Ortiz is playing some percussion on it, and then I have Kim Stone, who doesn't live here but used to play with the Rippingtons and Spiral Gyro. So I got some pretty good players sitting in there with me, So
I was a big fan. Again, back in the late 70s, all throughout the early 80s, came out of Sarasota, The Wave, 102.5.
Yeah.
And that music was not just good for late night Fridays, late night Saturdays, but, all through the evening. It was wonderful music to, sit and get outside and, have a tea and just, it was great background, great ambient music.
Well, these days I've been listening to it a lot since I'm trying to get into that genre a little bit, but it's sort of like country music. Country music used to be really country, but now I describe country as pop rock with a little fiddle and pedal steel and a country twang.
Yeah.
Well, now the jazz has turned into smooth jazz, and now the smooth jazz is turning into actually basically some rock and roll tracks, just instrumental, I mean, and
things are morphing. Things are morphing and changing.
It's like listen to Mindy Abair's new CD that she has out. It's rocking.
Justin Timberlake just did a piece on the CMAs the other night that's making the rounds now on social media, where he played with a C&W hot artist. And I forget his name right now. Forgive me. I know somebody out there is yelling at the screen and telling me what it is, and I can't hear it. But so yes, pop is is country, and there's hybrids of music that are developing.
Well, that's why for me I feel too. I mean, we've had these pop hits, and I think I'm I'm right in the right time at the right place. We talked about that.
Yes, sir.
You know, so, and
Yes,
hopefully
sir.
I've got the chops, you know.
I think that speaks for itself. And hopefully I'm in the right place at the right time to launch these guys on a whole new segment of their career in Cuba. Because like I said, man, I think they're ready for this. I think they're ready for this in a big, big old way. Maybe we do a Firefall / Cuckoo Cuckoo. We all just go down there and put on a couple of shows. And then Mario doesn't come back because he just stays in Cuba with Sally, of course.
Nice save.
Good save. Do we have a website that we want to plug here, guys?
Well, my website is davidmuse.com, and it comes up David Muse Tonal Alchemy. The Firefall site, we're just rebuilding the site. It's going to be firefallofficial.com, but it's not quite launched yet, but it will be launched within the next short period of time.
Short period of time.
Yes.
And you had a website that you had mentioned earlier today as well?
No, I was kidding, but
get us
I
again.
have
Get us again.
the Use Your Gift Foundation where I
Please.
help develop young kids that are just starting out.
I'm sorry I didn't ask about that.
Well, that's okay, and it's useyourgift.org.
Useyourgift.org. And Sandy does great work with the kids in his hometown, in and around his hometown of Oregon, Medford?
Central Point,
Central Point, Oregon.
And you can donate millions there.
Yes.
There's no limit.
No limit. Not like a pack. You can give as much as you can. Give till it hurts. Let me just say, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter at TPA Natives Show. On the 21st, just in a couple of weeks from this coming Saturday, Cuckoo Cuckoo will be appearing once again. They're the hardest working band in the local area. January 21st. They're going back to their roots. They're actually performing at the American Legion Post 111 Hall in Seminole Heights there. I believe it's on Florida Avenue around Sly in Florida. Any closing comments, guys? We've got about a minute.
Appreciate you having us,
come on,
you know,
David.
and
Thank
you know, this is a great show, and you know, we missed a lot of stories. I could tell you a lot of stories about the Tampa Bay area. Next time I come, we'll get into
We'll
that
drill down a little bit further. I just wanted everybody to
meet.
meet you and especially to see you again, Sandy. Thank you guys so much. And if you don't have your tickets, try to get out there tomorrow to see everybody at Ruth Eckerd Hall. I know Sally and I will be there thanks to our dear friend Sandy Ficca. He made it possible for us to kind of be backstage so we can meet the fellas. We're looking forward to seeing you guys. Hey, let's raise our cups, everybody.
All right.
On behalf of everybody that puts this show together, thanks for watching. That's David Muse. This is Sandy Ficca. I'm Mario Nunez. Salud,
Salud.
and happy days. We
Happy
love you,
days.
Tampa, and we'll see you next week. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Dave.
Back when we were younger and everything seemed new, we used to have a lot of fun, yes we did, no matter what we do. Sleepy days, long summer nights, going anywhere we please, with love that I could call my own, love that I've always known, the city that I call my home, a home from which I never roam. This love affair was meant to be. I love her and she loves me. I remember Tampa, oh, she remembers me. She remembers me. I remember, yeah, yes I do. Oh, I remember, yeah, me and you. I'm a Tampa native, Tampa native, can't you see? I will share my story with you to preserve its history.
All right now, don't forget, Thursdays, 7 p.m. on TBCN, home of the Tampa Native Show.